Dude, it's the Thrift God. I'm just trying to spit blessings in your eardrums. I'm trying to make a little beat. You dig? No, honestly, we have probably some cool vintage info that'll be dropped, some backstory, some things we're into. Obviously, I'm just trying to entice you guys in whatever form, facet, or way, but I'm just glad you're here joining us for real. To all the people tuning in, I appreciate you guys. And may I rain some blessings on your spirits. You dig?
Welcome to Vintage and Soft with two high fits. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft with two high fits. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft. Two high fits. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft. Vintage and Soft. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Yeah, just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'ma run it back. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'll have some of that.
We are live with the man himself, Paul Cantu. I've been so stoked to get you on the show, dude. For a long time, I didn't think you saw my DM for a minute.
Dude, honestly, I have on no notifications. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
figure. So I'm like, I need to hit this guy harder. So we're gonna jump around on this episode. You know, obviously we got lots to talk about. But before we go deep into the YouTube world, deep into your history, all that shit, I want to hit them with something hard here, which everyone loves to talk about. The 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 cheddar biscuits, the money, the how you make the money, where the money comes from in your world of YouTube, in your world of website, your world of whatnot. Now, I don't know, but give us as much insight as you can into
Let's see.
the financial
All
world
right.
of Paul Cantu.
All right, let's go. My pocket watchers, let's get it. I actually kind of exposed kind of a lot of the background finances of some of the series that I do, but those are fun because it essentially, like on my YouTube, I started a couple of series where I paid off my house, like starting with a penny, where I paid off the entire remaining balance of like my loan, my mortgage, which was really cool. But essentially, man, I have a bunch of different sources of income. One, obviously, is selling clothes, and that's a big one. The next biggest one probably would be sponsorships, whether that be on Instagram, YouTube, a combination of them. And then honestly, the third like is YouTube ad revenue. Like that's probably the third in the list, which a lot of people may not know. But yeah, YouTube is a little fickle sometimes with the finances. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Uh, was there ever a time where you were like riding totally off the YouTube revenue? Because I know it changes so much, and you've been doing this for 11 years, and we're going to dive into that. Was there a
Yeah.
time when the YouTube revenue was like, you're good off that?
Dude, so when I started YouTube, I would hate when people would put tons of ads in their videos. So just off the viewer experience, I played myself so hard because I was like, no, I'm putting one ad in the video. I was like, because I hate watching ads just personally. So honestly,
Yeah.
I could have like probably looted up to a higher extent if I was really on some like, oh, I'm trying to make all this money type stuff. But all I really wanted to do when I got into YouTube was just do exactly what I want and live free and not have a boss. So I really didn't care. And like when I started, I was getting paid like 125 a month. Like working at college, like I had free housing and free food, which was cool. I worked in the dorms as like a RA. And I was like, dude, if I just make 125 a month, like I'm good, dude. I just made all my months like revenue, like then as a broke college student. So I really didn't care at the time. But yeah, like when YouTube and my viewership was peaking, there'd be some like good months where I make like 6 bands in a month or whatever. So it was like pretty decent, I guess. But yeah, I just was like, once I got out of college, I was like, oh, if I can pay my rent off it, that's cool. Like in my expenses, like whatever. And then like the money I made from selling stuff, I was like, I can use that just to save up. Cause I really don't, I'm like the cheapest person ever. Like if some people didn't know, I am like the most frugal individual ever. So I really didn't have any extravagant expenses in any other form. So yeah, I forget
Yeah,
what
dude,
your
that
original
that's
question
that's
was.
well, that's just it. I mean, it's very respectable. First of all, that you did that because, like you said, you probably could have been riding pretty good off that ad revenue, but also it does hinder the growth in your user experience or your viewer experience, right? Um,
Uh,
so it's commendable that you went that route, dude. Good for you.
I mean, let's not get it twisted and or nor confused. At a certain point, I was like, wait, I should be putting more ads in my videos. It really was like a financial YouTuber broke down how much money he made in a month off YouTube. And I was like, dude, I'm doing his numbers. Like, but they get more premium ads, which is another thing a lot of people don't know about YouTube. It depends on the content, which will generate more premium ads, or different advertisers who have a better return on their investment will invest in like financial YouTubers, or like, I don't know, more family friendly, safer YouTubers. And, you know, I was flying loose with the lips, if you will. Pause. But yeah, I was like saying some crazy things back in the day, and I did not.
I've heard some shit about how, because the thrift audience is like not the best at clicking ads, they never do, and they don't convert ad. So like this type of content, even this podcast or your vlogs, like it's got a, I forget what that metric is called, but it's like a low payout on those ads anyway, even if you put them in there.
Yeah, there's like CPM, I think. I don't know
CPM, yeah.
exactly how all of it works behind the scenes, but all I know is I saw some financial YouTubers getting the same views I was getting, and they're getting like 4 times the payout. And I was like, what? I was like, this is crazy. But like once the adpocalypse hit on YouTube, where they were really strict about music, about, because back in the day I could put 15 seconds of a song and not get a copyright strike and not have all my revenue go to like these big musical like distribution and like music labels. Basically, I'll put in like 15 seconds of like Lil Uzi or whatever songs, and I could really create a crazy vibe in the videos, and that was a lot of fun. But there's the adpocalypse where essentially people were dropping like crazy ass slurs and curse words, and just, it was just the wild west of YouTube. And advertisers, I think, were on a couple videos that were pretty provocative in that sense, and just a bad look for the corporation in of itself, that they were like, they were pulling the ads out. Then YouTube got real strict about, hey, if you show this, if you have this type of content, if you curse XYZ, then your payment goes down. So at that point I kind of restructured, and once that happened, that's kind of when I started dropping multiple ads and videos, because I was like, okay, I got to make up for, like, I had probably my whole catalog get demonetized, or all the money from it go to record labels, just because back in the day you could monetize it. Then like overnight I had like 400 emails come through, this, all these videos, all the money's going to these different record labels. That was a crazy day, dude. I was like, what? I
Fuck,
was
that's
like,
like
no
the
way.
paycheck just gets slashed.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't really hurting like that because I was creating new content. Some of the old videos weren't like obviously garnering as much attention anymore because they were a few years old. But still, like my whole back catalog was just like nuked in an instant in terms of being any type of financially viable. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, speaking of your of the early videos. I went back. You're 11 years deep in your YouTube career, maybe even longer. But can you remember your first video, baby Paul Cantu, hitting that thrift, the thrift, and like, do you remember what you bought that day?
Dude, I could break it down. Like I have, this is actually my third YouTube channel. So I started in like 2009. Like the whole reason I got into YouTube was because I would see people do cool stuff on YouTube, and I was like, I could do that. And I was really good at soccer. Like that's what I dedicated my whole life towards as a youngin. Like when I was in seventh grade, basically I was playing football because I grew up in like a predominantly black community where football and basketball were like the sport. So I was like, yo, in seventh grade, I'm gonna play football, right? So the second practice, we go full pads, and they just put like, we're all in a circle, and they're just like, you and you get in the circle, whoever knocks each other over, like you're out, next person up, just like kind of king of the hill type stuff. And dude,
Yeah.
I was the white kid in like an all black school. These dudes were swole, like yoked, like probably the equivalent to like 18-year-old me, but they were in seventh grade, like armpit hair, and dude, people are just getting lit up. And after that, I was like, yo, I don't think this is for me at this stage in my life. So I was like pretty good at soccer. So I'm like, yo, I'm going to dedicate myself to soccer. And so every day I practiced for multiple hours. And essentially that led me to becoming good at something. And that translated into YouTube. I was like, if I dedicate time to bring it all back to your question, then I can actually make something out of this. So my first channel on YouTube in 2009 was a soccer channel where I was like doing tricks. It's called like Paul Cantu 2012. So that's like my first channel. And then when I was like a sophomore and junior in high school in like 2011, I was doing pranks and like vlogs in high school. And it wasn't called vlogs because vlogging wasn't a thing, but I just take my camera. It was like a little point and shoot into the high school and just record. And those videos would get like 1 to 4,000 views in 2010 and 11. And I was like, this is crazy. And it was just people in the high school, and they're like, "Yo, I want to be in a skit, or I want to be in a video, or whatever." And so that kind of led me to believe that, hey, maybe I can be cracking or have a little audience on YouTube. But then I stopped on both those channels, and it was in 2011/12 when you would see like Professor Snap and like Iceman 289 and Deep the Truth and Soul Food, San Fran. And I would watch all them, and they all quit making content. And I was like, I liked watching this. There was a probably a good 10,000 or so people that like watching that content as well, and all the content was just gone. And my boy RJ Suave, he was on there too, Thrift Mansion. And so I would watch him, and then he took a step back from the YouTube scene, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna pick up the baton and just sprint with it. And so in 2012, I was like, let me just record myself. So that first video, yeah, I kind of had the same sense of humor, but I was a little bit quieter because I was like, ooh, I don't know, this is kind of weird. And especially back then in a public setting, no one is expecting you to have a camera just talking to yourself back then. Like now it's a little bit more understandable, and people my age like know what's going on. But for the average citizen, they're like, yo, what is this guy on? But I don't remember exactly what I found that day. I think I might have found like a Las Vegas tee. It's like a little script Las Vegas tee. But mainly I was looking for snapbacks. That's what got me into it. So I was predominantly just searching for snapbacks, and anything else I was like, that's kind of an added bonus if I find it. But yeah, I just wanted to find fire snapbacks because I wanted to be the Caucasian Tiger, the Caucasian Big Sean, fresh with my vintage snap that I got from the thrift because that's the only place I could afford and get it from. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So that video, you're right. Is obviously you have the same sense of humor. Definitely a little quieter. Definitely looking a lot younger, a lot fresher. Um, but you found a beanie. You bought a beanie. You bought a Las Vegas tee. But you actually passed on a lot of shit. You're like looking at FUBU jerseys, and you're looking at like all this other cool stuff. But I guess like, or in the early days, you're like, that stuff's out here. It's not a big deal. It's whatever, right?
no, it was because back then I was just shopping for myself. Like if something wasn't my size, I'd be like, "Oh, this is cool, but it's not my size. Dang, leave it." That was like probably 2 years of YouTube was me just grabbing stuff that only would fit me or that I could rock. But like the reselling market back then, it wasn't like a major draw. Like I just wanted to show people, hey, you can find cool stuff in the thrifts. And if I made like a couple bucks, that would be fine. But it wasn't even money that was motivating me. It's just I was entertained by those videos, and the content creators stopped making them. So I was like, yo, let me do this. And I remember telling my mom, because I didn't tell anyone about this channel, because my other channels had little local buzzes, but I told no one. I just created the channel. And I was like, Mom, I got like 50 views. This is crazy. Like 50 random people watching me. And I was like, Mom, it's like at 500 views. And then I was just like so excited over that because I'm like, whoa, 500 people. Like, damn, that's my like whole like high school right there. Basically, I was like, that's in terms of numbers. I was like, it's awesome.
Yes. So I guess like at what point, like that first video on the Thrift channel 11 years ago, were you like working, or this is in college at this point?
So yeah, I was working as a roller coaster operator. So yeah, there's like a bootleg. It's like what's that pier on Santa Monica? Is it just called the Santa Monica Pier? Is that what
Yeah,
it's
Santa
called?
Monica Pier. It's like the carnival.
Yeah, yeah, so there's a bootleg one of those that's in Galveston, Texas, where I was born. So I would, drive to the island, be on there just freaking flipping people on roller coasters. And there was one ride that was manually operated, and it was just a circle, and I could like do it where I could stall people on the top. And then I'd be like, "Are you guys having fun?" They're like, and I'm just like, then they just go. Or there's no line. I'm like, "Y'all want to flip again?" And I
Oh
would
fuck.
flip people nonstop. So yeah, that was an odd job, but it was fun. And there were a bunch
That
of
is an
like
odd job, dude.
yeah, they're like
I'm,
Ukrainians, Jamaicans, Russians, and they would just throw parties that were just cross cultural. They were like on some work exchange. They were lied to, told they were going to a tropical island, which Galveston is. It's something, but it's not necessarily tropical. And so we'd have crazy parties. And so at that time in my life, yeah, I was out there making YouTube videos on the side, trying to look fresh for those little get-togethers and stuff.
so wait, you're telling me that they would get these employees to come to Galveston by telling them they're going to be working on some tropical island?
Yeah, they were offered like a East Coast like McDonald's or a tropical island theme park. And so you had all these different people, like people from Turkey, Ukraine, Russia, Jamaica, and they would like pay them less, I guess legally they could do that or so. I don't know how it worked, but
Yeah,
it was
but
it was wild.
this is like your local little Disneyland, little theme park where everyone will go in the summer and fucking hang out, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's a rad job. And at what point is this? At what point do you decide like I'm selling vintage. I'm gonna make money on this. This is gonna be my thing, because you've like it's interesting to me the fact that your whole time in vintage really has been documented, right? Where like some people will be in
Yeah.
it for a long time and then start documenting maybe later, but your whole time in vintage has been documented. So at what point was it like I'm going full in? I got no other job. I'm selling these clothes. I'm gonna make some money on YouTube. How did that happen?
So the first sale I made was in 2014, I think. And I was in the group WWVSE, the World Vintage Snapback Exchange. Gang.
Yep. Gang,
So
gang,
I was
gang.
yeah, I was in that Facebook group, and so I sold like a diamond, like a New Orleans Saints like diamond, and that was my first sale. I think I sold it for like $40, and I was staying at my uncle's house at the time because I went to the University of Texas in Austin, and my uncle lived in Austin, so I didn't want to go back to my like small town in the summer. So I was like working in Austin that summer, and that's my first sale. But what led me to take YouTube seriously as a form of income was my second summer of college, or my, I guess it was after my first year of college. I worked at an insurance company in like a cubicle, and I was like, man, this is so whack. Like that was my summer job, and it was just such a dead vibe and environment there. And like there were a couple other younger people from my like college or high school that would work there as well, and they were on a different floor. So I was isolated with just like middle-aged women in a cubicle by myself. Like, dude, this is not for me. Like a 9 to 5 is not for me. And so that's when I started like getting serious with YouTube, was after that year. So I think that was going into maybe my junior or sophomore year of college. But that's what really was like, all right, I'm gonna take YouTube seriously as a form of potentially being able to build it up throughout college. So when I graduate, I actually have something to stand on.
And what did you study? What were you studying?
I studied art, so I was a studio art major. So I would do sculpting, woodworking, graphic design, video editing. I did pretty much every art form except acting and music. I mean, those were different schools, but I was like a visual artist. So I do lithography, where you etch on a stone tablet this thick and then create prints off that. It was like a medieval practice. So I was doing literally everything.
And did you ever want to take that? Like I did have that on here to talk about your artistic endeavors, your artistic brain. From what I understand, you're a very good artist. And
Decent.
did you ever want to take that into a career? And like say you were to say this all ended now and you wanted to get out of YouTube or vintage, like what would you do?
Yeah, so if I didn't have YouTube or well, one, I'd always do YouTube, period, unless the whole app in and of itself imploded. But I'd be on any form of social media because I just like sharing what I do. If I think something's cool, I want to share it because hopefully there's a like-minded individual. If you're not, I'll get you into it, right? So if yeah, there wasn't vintage, I'd be doing gardening, just building crazy like stuff like ponds in my garden, planting trees, creating my own fruit, basically building up a food forest, and then yeah, I'd be making art as well. So but to bring back the art as a career, so I studied fashion classes as well. I was always into fashion and art. So I actually like petitioned the like art counselor or whatever to be like, hey, let me take these fashion classes and count like an art credit. She's like, okay, we could do that. So I was like, yes. So I was taking fashion design classes. So I was making jeans, I was making jackets out of like faux alligator like skin, like t-shirts, whatever, from scratch. So on YouTube, I'll be customizing shoes with my art skills or customizing jackets, and those videos actually blew up like crazy. That brought a lot of people to my channel, was me doing restorations and customizations. And now I would still do that, but at the point where I'm currently at, just the time versus the payout for that is very hard to balance. And also just knowing that time could be spent elsewhere. But truly, I like woodworking. Like I built the shelves behind me. I built my own bed. So yeah, man. I mean, I would be
Nice.
doing something creative in whatever way if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's dope. So, speaking on like what you're saying about sharing, right? You know, you've been sharing the whole time, and there's this world of vintage. I mean, any business you're going to be in, there's like the gatekeepers, there's the haters that say like we shouldn't be sharing this crap, right? And I deal with that all the time. Because of like this podcast and what we're talking about right now. And obviously you've been probably hearing about that shit since the beginning. Um, so, you know, people wanted to know that. A lot of people ask like, what's his take on the gatekeeping and like where, you know, obviously you're not a gatekeeper because you're very open about sharing all your experiences and what you're up to. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that whole world and, um, the old head gatekeep mentality versus like say your mentality and like anything in between?
Let's just say if I was alive in the Crusades, the gates of Constantinople would be wide open because I would record where I would find stuff at. It wasn't really like a secret in any sense. And my whole thing was like, I always wanted to make a difference in the world somehow. And it's kind of crazy because my college's like slogan was like, make a difference in the world. Right? University of Texas, like make a difference type shit. And so I was like, man, I just want to recycle and reuse clothes because fast fashion is like so horrible that I was like, if I can get people into vintage and buying new stuff, that'd be awesome. But at the same time, it's like once I started reselling, I'm like, dang, there's a lot of people up in here now. And I'm like, there ain't nobody to blame but myself. But that's what it is. I rather kids be equipped to be able to make some side income, pay their phone bill, like pay their housing, whatever, slinging some clothes, than be like forced to work a job they might not like. Or even if they're working a job they do like, at least they got a little bit of side money too. So to me, I'm like, look, my one rule or the one thing that I feel like you should do, because sometimes I see people in the thrift who are just like looking up every item, which is fine. But I'm like, yo, if you're buying clothes, at least look fresh. At least have some crazy hat on, some crazy shoes, some crazy tee, whatever. Like, like at least like it enough to like not still be shopping at Walmart, dude. Like, and that's mainly like older people that'll just be in there looking stuff up. But at the end of the day, man, like I can't hate on anybody trying to get their bread up in any sense because we're all just trying to survive out here, basically. So yeah, in
That's
terms of
so funny
gatekeeping, I
that
don't
I
really
did not
care.
think you were going to go there with your one rule. You're talking about like the Costco jeans wearing middle-aged man who's all up in there like buying the hype vintage tees to go throw on his Depop, looking them up, or his eBay or something, just
Yeah.
comping everything using the Google Lens to see what's what.
Yeah, that's basically the one thing where I'm like, bro, you gotta at least like it in some sense. Like, I'll go to estate sales. I love estate sales, but I'll grab stuff for like my house too. Like, my house has an eclectic like setup of different random odds and ends that I find different places because I genuinely love like old stuff or unique stuff or cool stuff, and that's kind of like an ode to my mom because she would kind of pick up weird things or like stopping at road attractions and kind of she'd be doing little quirky things like that. So I've always kind of been into that. So I just like, yo, if you're in it like to make money, at least enjoy a couple things, for yourself too. Or if you want to like rock a style and have a more low key style, you can still find all those items in the thrift. And that's like what a lot of my videos were like building outfits in the thrift early on was like, dude, you can go in a thrift. Even right now, I could go in a thrift. I might not find this shirt or a hype piece, but I could still build a fire outfit for like 40 bucks max. And that's my whole thing is like, dude, it's not all about the hype. You can go in there and still look fresher than if you go into a mall or Ross or whatever. You can find equivocal items in just about any store.
A lot of what I'm hearing from you is this. I'm getting a vibe that you're not greedy in any sense of the word. You didn't care about the YouTube revenue that you said it from the beginning. You didn't monetize as much as you could have. I know from the fact like shopping I used to shop your website and I would be like so shocked at these prices. I was like, damn, like this is like $12 on their website. How the fuck are they making any money? And um, from talking to other friends of yours too, it sounds like you're just in it because you love it and you're not in it like to squeeze every fucking penny out like some people, right? So I commend you on that, but I want to know your take on that, because I think there's different viewpoints on it. You know, like you said it, you want to give to the people, you want to help the people. It's like help the world, right? And how has that mentality got? How do you feel that mentality has got you to where you are now? Because you're obviously doing something right. You own a house. You're known by the people, and you must be doing financially pretty well. So talk about like that mentality, but then still getting to where you want it to be.
Yeah, so originally, me and my boy Jacob Starr, we actually created, it was called High Fashion Vintage at the time. And it was kind of funny. The name was like an inside joke we had because there were a couple of people who would act like pretentious with clothes, like, oh, like this is blah, 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 which we never were that type of person. But honestly, in any field, if you have someone being like pretentious with it, that actually is better for the field because then you have people giving a reason as to why something should be valued at a certain price. And while we wouldn't put it at that price, having those people setting the bar is good because if your price is lower than that, they're like, well, we're still getting this good stuff. So any level of pretension, don't get it twisted, is ultimately probably better for the business in and of itself because it gets people being like, oh, if I have this piece, then this is truly, something unique or like older or whatever. And so we made it as kind of like an inside joke. But my mentality with that was I want to have an online thrift store. Like I want my prices to be like a thrift store, except it's more curated. So you go online and the same prices are like a price you find in a Goodwill or like wherever. And I was like, if I get a shirt for $1, I'll sell it for $2. If I get it for $2, I'll sell it for $4. Just everything just doubling my money. And then I don't really care at the end of the day. But then yeah, a lot of people were sniping, reselling, whatever. And then it got to a point where we were just shipping so much and we used to not even have label printers. So we were like writing. I remember my dad had a pool table and it was just covered in orders. And I was just writing stuff on all the orders and it was nuts. But I mean that really I guess did help like sell like you'd sell out everything instantly when it's that cheap and people are like, wow, I don't even got to go to the thrift. I can just go online. So that was the mentality for a while. And really the only time because I don't want to act like I'm like completely like selfless and for the people, whatever. But the only time I started amping it up and taking actually finances seriously was where I was going out to clubs and bars or whatever, and I discovered like financial YouTube, and I was like, dang, with the position I'm at, I could really leverage this to be financially independent and like debt free or like whatever. I mean, I never had loans on cars or anything like that. I just never really splurged crazy. And that's largely due to my upbringing. I have fire ass parents. My parents are awesome. But but yeah, in that sense, once I discovered financial YouTube, I was like, okay, I want to start selling stuff a little bit for more than what it's worth, but still lower than market, and then save up, get a house, like not have to pay a renter for something I don't own. And that was kind of the step. But there's always steps to get there. It's not just something overnight. So guys, if you're watching this, don't get it twisted. It's fine to rent. Okay, just know your position right now. Don't do nothing crazy.
Yeah, we'll jump into the house in a bit because I think that's a good topic for the people to learn a few things. Jacob mentioned the thrift chariot, and I've seen your thrift chariot mentioned in videos, and this speaks to your frugality that you're talking about. You never splurge. He's telling me he's driving around with you in this thrift chariot. The seatbelt's like unpopping. You're like going to drive-throughs, and you're having to reach to the back window to get the food because the window's bust. So
Yeah,
like
dude.
you're really frugal with it. Um, but I think there's something to be said for that because it's not all flash, right? And a lot of people do it for the looks, and then they don't end up in a position like you where you have the house and a stable career and life, you know?
Yeah, so I've actually had two of the same vans. They're 90s Aero Stars just because they're sleek and
Dude,
they're
they're good. And
surprisingly
they're like chunky truck body. Like those things are solid.
yeah, and they're surprisingly fuel efficient because they're designed like a damn dust buster or something. So they're actually pretty fuel efficient comparatively to like if I were to get an F-150, my van probably get equivocal or the same gas mileage. It's nuts. But regardless of the fact, yeah, I had one that I paid like 4K for when I was like I think a junior in college, and I threw on these insane like Dayton's, like these wire wheels on it, and I put in the loudest speakers. And it used to be a police van, so like lightly, you could see the old decals and it said like strive for excellence on the side. And so I would just be driving around on campus just blasting music. Like, and I had to put adapters to put the rims on there. So the van was just constantly shaking. And so that one ended up having like misfiring cylinders, but I drove it from Texas all the way to Washington State, where Jacob lives. And so I lived there for like 6 months. We established the business together. And then the thrifting is just so fire in Texas. And like a lot of my friends who were like characters in the videos back then, uh, like I drove back to Texas and I drove it from Houston to Tacoma, from Tacoma back to Houston, all on a misfiring engine cylinders, but it couldn't pass inspection, so I had to get rid of it. So then I got a police car, and then now I got the Chariot 2.0, which is the same model as the other one. It just has like cooler like running boards and a cooler paint job. And I paid 2K for that. I mean, I put like 6 bands in repairs in it, like total to get it right. Cause I like bought it, had it like looked at by a mechanic, and then I had to drive to Atlanta for SneakerCon. So I just sent it. Like I got it in Austin, drove it to Houston, then next day had it looked at, then that same day drove to Atlanta. I was braking on the highway, brake fluids just flying out. I feel like I'm about to crash. Like, dude, I was literally grabbing the like there's it's like a captain chair. So I was grabbing the armrest, like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I stopped in like Mobile, Alabama, had them like piecemeal it together enough to get to Atlanta. Then I drove it from Atlanta to New York to Rhode Island, then had it looked at by my friend's like girl's dad who was a mechanic, then drove all the way back to Texas. It was nuts. And a van that was like had maybe 2,800 or maybe $800 put into it at that point.
Did you buy this 2.0 just to be like, this is the roots? I need to have another Chariot. I'm staying true here.
Dude, I'm just lucky. My dream car is like not worth shit.
I know you're a dad now, and do you drive around your family in the Thrift Chariot?
Hell no. Come on,
So-
bro. You got me messed up, bro.
What's the family whip then?
No, I actually have a luxury vehicle, 2004 Lexus ES. It's like an ES3 something. Dude, it looks like a Roach. It's like a grandmother Roach car, but it's super reliable and that thing will not die. So that's my other car. And then my girl has like a RAV4. She has like a Toyota RAV4, like a 2020. So that's what she rolls around with him in. But he has been in the Chariot. So like there was a time where like she got in a crazy car accident and basically she didn't have a car. And so I had my Lexus in the Chariot and the Lexus was in the shop. So I had to take him to like daycare. And so, yeah, we put the car seat in the Chariot. I put the middle row. So he has ridden in it, but I just like lowering the probability of some insane stuff happening potentially.
Yeah,
So
good call on that. Good call on that. Okay, I got a random one here for you. You know, looking at your career in vintage, we'll call it a career. You call it whatever you want. um, you know, the question: Are you proud of where you're at? Are you proud of what you've done, and are you proud of yourself?
probably not. I don't know. I'm not proud, but I don't really think about it like that. I mean, I've done some cool stuff in the past, and it's funny because like whenever my girlfriend shows people my YouTube, she'll go to certain videos where I'm like customizing or painting something or doing something crazy, and I feel like yeah, I'm proud of like certain videos or certain things I do, but just the day to day. It's just, like it is a job. Like that's what a lot of people don't get. It still is a job. Like I've edited over 1,000 videos that's on my channel. So that means for 3 years of my life, like 365 days times three, I've sat there and edited video for 4 to 8 hours. I've shot the video and that's 2 to 6 hours, right? So that's another however many years, you could just split that up and just, let's just say 3 years have been dedicated of my life to doing this. So yeah, if I look back and I'm like, dang, I got a house paid off, like ultimately when I think back to when I started it, I'm exactly where I want to be. So like if I could look at that kid and be like, dang, dude, you got a beautiful woman, you have a kid, beautiful son, your house is paid off, like you're still being able to create and make videos and do what you want, largely speaking. I got my homie a job working for me, then and people, yeah, value me in the community and like still take pleasure from my work, then yeah, ultimately, yes, now that you kind of put the lens back on myself, yeah, I am proud. But just day to day when you're living it,
Okay,
you're not
good.
really thinking about it like that. Yeah, like I don't
No,
usually
that's
sit
why I
there and
asked that question, because I'm like, people don't think about it, and I think it's important to think about it and take that scope of where you're at now. Because from where I sit, you've accomplished a lot. You probably can go to any vintage event anywhere and be recognized. People want pictures. People want to have a chat. People want to say thanks, probably for, getting you. You probably got a lot of people in the business. That's a whole nother topic.
yeah, I mean,
And
I probably did.
right, so I think it's good to take note of. So about that, like where we are now in the biz, in your perspective, the timeline of this business since you've been in it, where we're at now, where obviously it's very apparent in this like boom time, right? You got thrift cons like every year, there's more and more of them. Every town now has like all these flea markets all the time. Um, there's just so many more resellers in it, right? Like thrifts are like packed, the bins are packed. It's pretty crazy where we're at in the timeline of the evolution of, say, vintage reselling, right? Like when you look at that timeline, is there points in it where you're like, this was a key factor in building it, this was a key factor in building, this is a key factor? Like, how do you view it?
Oh man. So when I look back, dude, like it's like what you said in the old videos when I would pass on things. Dude, there's so much fire I used to pass on like back in the day. And then I'm just glad I got in it when I did because it was like the promised land. Like any thrift, I would go in there and just grab just boatloads of clothes. Like I would go in any store, just have a cart just packed to the rafters. So I'm glad I got in it when I did because that was really fun. I think now going to some of the thrifts I used to frequent, it definitely is a little bit more of like a like, damn dude, like I remember when this store was juicy. It was the Garden of Eden. But now it's like, damn, sometimes you'll go in a store, you're like, oh man, there's not anything in here, but that's just the game. But I truly like the bins because even if you don't find anything, you have like all your friends in there. Like, and you can find stuff, and especially me, I like finding all types of weird trinkets, toys to throw on orders, whatever. I make my time worthwhile when I'm in the bins. But like having that community and your homies with you, and then if they find something, you celebrate it. If you find something, they celebrate it, and then you can just spitball off each other. Like, I mean, where I'm at, I'll just cash them out so they get bread. They can basically make equivalent to a pop up in a parking lot, and then I can still make money off that on top. So that's like super awesome too. I don't know. It's just kind of the game like changes, and you just gotta kind of adjust with it and move with it, or do whatever you see fit, or I don't know. I don't really think there's truly any rules because I could sell like something. My one rule is if I think it's cool, I buy it. I don't care if it has a screen printed tag, if it's old as hell, whatever. And a lot of people can give you shit, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna sell a screen printed tag and try and make it seem like it's a crazy piece. $7, $4, got it for $2. Run it on a live on a random day. Someone might want that just because it's a Star Wars shirt. Their size keeps them out, whatever, or it's half off what you target, or it's a quarter what you would pay like at a normal store. So I just think if something looks cool, why not pick it up and like pass it on, give it a new home, and prevent the waste, you know? So I don't know. Yeah, like definitely going like solo dolo. If the thrift ain't hitting, it's like dang. But if it is, you're like woo. But that's why it's fun, like rolling with the mob, like in the bins or whatever, because it's just always popping, man. There's always
Yeah,
something.
the camaraderie, the banter, the hanging out with your homies. Even if it's a shit day, you're having a good time. Whereas the thrift can be a lonely place if there's nothing on the racks.
Exactly.
Does that ever
Exactly.
happen now? Because obviously you said, we're in that time when the thrift can be dead, the racks can be dead sometimes, right? So do you ever like? Is there ever a video where you're like, this? I don't want to have the content. I didn't get the shit. Like I can't. It won't be a good video because I didn't find anything.
I don't know. I think it's kind of the entertaining aspect. Like even if there's something cool and it's super high prices, I can make it funny or just be like, damn, and people can relate to that. And
Yeah,
but also I thrift for like 12 hours when I'm shooting content. So I'm like, there's going to be like some stores that hit, some that don't. But sometimes I don't like when it's as redundant, but they're just those stores that will restock like at a higher level than other ones. Like, so there's just some stores that'll hit harder than others. And then, I luckily have like my plugs and promote for some thrift stores. So that definitely helps me as well. And that's like YouTube in and of itself. That's where it comes in, where it's not necessarily about what you find when you have, sponsors, or like I'm blessed to be sponsored by Puma, where I'm like, oh, I can make some cool pics, or like rock this crazy new model of shoe and make it look cool with some vintage pieces. So that definitely helps with not being fully reliant on just like what you find in a sense.
Yeah, I talk about that on the show too. It's making money in this business, or making a career out of this business without only having to sell the product, right? People get like, it's selling the product is the most obvious. It's the what everybody does, but there's other ways to make money. You got people throwing events, you got people making content, you got people making apps. Like, there's other ways to make money in the business, and people will hopefully invent other new ways to make money or careers in this business that aren't only selling clothes.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even if all the thrifts were dead, there's like no hype pieces, I could go in and buy Levi's and customize them and make bread off that. Like, you can literally, and that's what's crazy now is like when I got started, there was YouTube, Instagram became a thing when I was in college, Snapchat became a thing when I was in college. So like kids, like, dude, you got the world at your fingertips. You can learn literally anything right now, how to do whatever, start businesses. It's great. And now with AI, it's like, dude, you can have that shit just doing your biz. Like, just
So
put
what
the
do you
robots
use
to
it
work.
for? What do you put the robots to work to do?
Do nothing, man. I'm scared of them. What you mean?
There's gonna be a full AI Paul Cantu channel popping up, and you'd be like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" A
Dude,
clone.
that is what's cool though. Like, I feel like this is kind of morbid, but if something were to happen to me, like, you legit could reconstruct whole conversations just off my videos. Like, you could grab all that audio and do whatever deep fake you want, man.
That's an interesting concept. The first AI robot army is just going to be all celebrities that have the biggest YouTube channels. There's going to be a Mr. Beast robot because they have all the data of his mannerisms and voice and shit. They're just going to clone it, and that's like Terminator shit, but
Hey,
YouTube
now we're
celebrity.
getting into the realm I like, bro. Now I'm gonna be on my Iceman tip, dude.
Oh fuck, love the Iceman. Yeah, so when you when you when you look back, you mentioned Iceman already as like one of the guys that got you in. Are you friends with him?
Dude, I followed him on Instagram. I've never really been super close to him, but there was like Soul Food, Iceman, and then there was Professor Snap, who I think his name is Paul too. But brothers, twin. But I basically messaged Iceman and Soul Food, and I was like, hey man, y'all like got me into this. And then the homie RJ Thrift Mansion, who's friends with Jacob, who's from that area, like he was from the Bay Area, and I think he was doing like custom denim like vests and that was like super popping. But like all of them, I told them like, dude, y'all like got me into it. So I told them all of that. Each one of them, I like sent messages to, or I've like told them that. And so I definitely like pay homage. There's a lot of people that I think, and that goes back to when you're like, oh, like I'm sure you got people into this or whatever. And Jacob will say that too, like, oh, you got people into it, like whatever. And I'm like, man, like there are some people who have egos with it, but I don't. Like, I'll give homage to anyone who got me into the stuff because without them, I probably wouldn't even like have started it in the first place. And I don't know where they're at with their journeys except RJ. Like, I keep up with him, but like for real, without those guys, I wouldn't have got into it. So shout out to them, DP, the truth, everybody, man. That was a crazy time, but they got me into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to pay homage. I
Oh,
believe
and
it.
you, dude. Dude, the first time I encountered you was actually from my homie Perry, dude. So this, oh my God, he would pay crackheads to, now, hold on, man. He paid them to like
What?
clean his Cadillac, slangers and shit. And yeah, he was like, he was doing some side hustling to say the least, but he was into vintage snapbacks too, and he was like a couple like grades older than me. He'd see me like skating around town and shit, and would just pull up on me in his Cadillac, be like, "Yo, Paul, what's up? What you doing?" He's like, "I seen you on YouTube, bro." Then he was like, "Hey, man, you need to check out Ephes and Frank, bro." He was like, "They got crazy snapbacks." So he put me on to you way back in the day. And what's funny is today when I was looking for your email to like get the link to hop on here, and I saw you sent me an email like 2015, and we were like trying to make a deal back then or something. It was funny, but your name had popped up, and it was like
Are
an
you serious?
old ass conversation. Yeah, I remember that because I was in my dorm.
So
Yeah, you were like,
I hit
hey,
you being like, yo, we need to sponsor you or something back in
yeah,
2015.
hey, on the cool, you ghosted me, bro.
I did.
Yeah, no, I just look at the conversation now because I was like thinking about it because I remember talking to you way back then.
Oh man.
Man, what I was like, what happened like to that? And then I was like, yeah, like I'm looking forward to hear from you or something. And then that was the last message.
Fuck. Different
Damn,
time, man.
dude.
Different time. I do remember, like, I do remember that was probably when you were, well, I mean, you were blowing up before that, but that was like still early on. And
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
reaching
Because I was
out.
in my
I don't
dorm.
know what happened. Fuck. See, everybody out there who I've ghosted, sorry. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the episode. Paul Cantu coming straight out of Texas. Go watch his YouTube. The man is a legend in the content creation world and the vintage world. And it was great to have him on the show. He had a lot of good things to say. If you want to continue the episode, if you want to hear the full version, all you got to do is jump on that Patreon or subscribe right here on the good old U of the Tube. The U of the Tube. Subscribe down below or in the show notes. Click on the Patreon. Sign up. Appreciate you guys so much. More episodes coming your way very soon.